Adam, you got a request, a solidarity request from somebody who is they're connected with somebody who is coming up for parole. This person is in prison right now in Alabama, and they have the opportunity of parole, and that hearing is coming up soon. And so there's his case is a particularly a particularly easy case to sympathize with, and there were some folks requesting that we share his case on the air so that people know about it, so that people can support this person's parole. So, Adam, can you talk to us about this Mark Miller?
Yeah, so I learned of this gentleman who has a parole hearing on December 4th. But before I tell you about that, I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of background. Earlier this year, AL.com put out a really good series. It's called Denied: Alabama's Broken Parole System. And in this series, they examined the sharp decline in parole grants by the Alabama Board of Pardons and Paroles. And, you know, if you're not familiar with it, parole provides incentives for incarcerated folks to participate in rehabilitative programs and avoid disciplinary issues in prison. And it allows for compassionate release for people who are seriously ill or elderly and pose no risk to public safety. Parole is also an important tool for addressing overcrowding, which is a significant factor contributing to the unconstitutional conditions in Alabama's prisons. The Parole Board's own guidelines suggest that more than 80% of incarcerated people should be granted parole, according to AO.com. But last year, Alabama's Parole Board granted just 8% of paroles, right? So they're saying 80% of folks should be granted parole, but only 8% are actually getting it. And this is in the context of a prison system that has been deemed unconstitutional by the federal government, in part due to massive overcrowding in both men and women's facilities. So back to Mr. Mark Miller. He is serving a life with the possibility of parole sentence under Alabama's Habitual Felony Offender Act. And that act has been subject to a lot of controversy. There's been a lot of pushes to change that bill, and you're going to find out why with his case. So he's been serving the sentence since 2003 and was ordered to pay restitution of about $9,870. Mr. Miller has served his sentence with good behavior and has fulfilled his restitution obligations. His case is an example of the harm caused by the scope of the Habitual Felony Offender Act. His case was escalated due to a previous personal use cannabis possession charge and a receiving stolen property charge that occurred several years prior. None of these were violent offenses that endangered the public in any way. They were Class C felonies. Modifications to the law should have allowed for a filing of a motion for modification of the sentence. In July of 2005, Mr. Miller filed a motion for modification of sentence, but the plea agreement offered by the state in his last offense included language that stripped Mr. Miller of his right to appeal post-conviction relief. Mr. Miller was first up for parole in 2006. He has job skills that will allow him to be a productive member of the free world and a home plan to support him during this transition. We believe Mr. Miller not only represents the unequitable application of the Habitual Felony Offender Act, but also embodies an individual who has taken all steps necessary to earn release. Mr. Miller has successfully maintained consistent employment throughout his incarceration. He has strong work skills in construction, which was his trade prior to incarceration, and in auto manufacturing, which were gained during his incarceration. He has worked outside of the facility for 8 to 10 hours a day with minimal supervision and demonstrated strong character in the workplace and at the facility. After release, Mr. Miller has a strong family support system that will make his transition from incarceration easier. He also has the support of folks like Jobs to Move America's workplace training that will offer him free classes in workplace readiness and financial literacy to reinforce a successful transition. So there's a lot you could dig into there, and maybe, some of the factors behind his case and so many others like him. But I wanted to share that with you. It was put on my radar recently. As I mentioned, Mark Miller's parole hearing is December 4th. If you are so interested, you can certainly write the board at notifications@paroles.alabama.gov. So that's notifications@paroles.alabama.gov. You can also write them a letter, though it is December 4th for the hearing, so I would urge you to send it electronically. So I really want to see some changes to that law. I want to see some really major changes to the mass incarceration in the state. But, knowing that this gentleman has his hearing coming up this week, really sending the best and wishing the parole board to do what they need to do and make a wise decision there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Really, I mean, wow. 20 years.
Already. Over 20 years. Yeah. It's a lot. That is a lot to handle. And, like I said, he's been working really hard and, seems like the perfect example of someone who doesn't need to be locked up. So this let him transition and move on with his life. And, this all move on. I think that's what we got to do. And so, appreciate the folks who put that on my radar recently, and sending our solidarity.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.